Rumble Johnson to Bellator. I gotta tell you, I'm a Rumble fan. I'm what you would call a mark for Rumble, but I've been wanting to see him come back. I didn't see the Bellator thing coming, by the way. I mean, the timeline was pretty simple. Rumble retires from the sport. Rumble announces he wants to come back to the sport. Rumble enters the USADA testing pool. Rumble signs with Bellator. You see where that comes as a surprise. If you wanted to talk with Bellator or were free to talk to Bellator and or other organizations, the time to do that seemingly would have been prior to entering the pool. Once you enter the pool, it would seem as though everything's agreed upon and done. So that's where you have the surprise factor, but the only thing we don't have as a piece to the puzzle with Bellator is what weight class. And I don't know that that's fair for me to say we don't have that. It actually has been said that he's going to go to light heavyweight. I'm the one arguing as a voice in the room. Why? Why light heavyweight? What is down there? For example, they've got Corey Anderson. They've got Phil Davis. Machida plays around in that weight class. I'm just saying it looks as though that weight class for the short term, not to mention you got Nemkov, who's the sitting champion. That weight class in the short term looks like it's handled. Why not test the waters at heavyweight? Could be an answer. I would just like it. I just like the parity. I like the thought of Rumble at heavyweight. Now, here's another idea if we're just talking about things to talk about them. Why not do one-offs? Here's what a one-off would be. You sign a contract with a guy for one night only. If he wins, whatever allure and rub and shine he gets to take back to the free market. Now, no MMA promoter wants to do that. That's just not how this sport is played. But other sports, that's exactly how they're played. In fact, if you were to look at boxing, you got Floyd Mayweather and this Paul kid coming up. But that would be what's considered a one-off. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., that would be a one-off. Whatever shine either one of them gets for that victory or that win or that loss, but that performance, they can take with them and go do whatever the hell they want with. I bring that to you because we do look like we're in a unique time. Here, let me just throw an example at you. For Bellator, who's Rumble going to fight? Okay, Yoel Romero. There is no long-term play. There is no long-term storyline. There's no implications within a division. Why are we here and why are we fighting? Because they're available and we, the fans, would like to see it. Yoel Romero versus Rumble Johnson. One night only. But if a promoter doesn't have a second and third play with a guy, a lot of times he'll pass on the guy. MMA, we tell a story. The punches and the kicks are a small part as to what we do in MMA to involve and integrate the fan into the ecosystem. It's a small part. We make it as though it's the grand and only part, but it's a small part. The story as to why are we here and what are we doing here, what is this about and what is the significance, is every bit as important, if not more, than a punch and a kick and a takedown. I bring that to you because a lot of times a promoter will pass on a guy where they go, look, Yoel, there's something here for sure, but this could, not only do we not have a long-term story for you, every time we sit down creatively, we see where you throw off a story we have for somebody else. We see where you're going to come in and be a bracket buster. We've identified the top 5 guys. You're number 9, but you could come in and beat any one of these top 5 guys on any given day, and it ruins the story we're attempting to tell. That's true, and that's real, and that is a spot that Yoel is in, and Yoel will come in and bust a bracket on you. But if you bring him on a one-off, there is no story you're even attempting to tell. Why are we here? Because it's fun and you guys are available. Why else? Next question. It's one of those unique situations where I feel as though we're going to have to change the way that we think. We're going to have to change the way that the sport is done, which is always tough. Anything in life. To break tradition and or to break habit is a very tough thing. And I don't know as a long-term sustainable plan that the idea that I'm proposing for you is one that needs to be interjected. I'm talking about in the short term. In a sport that is played like chess, 2 and 3 steps ahead, every now and then checkers is a hell of a lot of fun. You got the board out lately, guys? You'll have a lot of fun. Just red against black, one piece against one. Who can jump who and become a king? I mean, right? In fairness, there's a reason that game has withstood time. And it does seem as though whatever is going to happen with a Yoel type, whatever is going to happen with an Anderson Silva type. If you were to use the world of boxing, or we could even use bare knuckle boxing, Yoel Romero versus Anderson Silva, bare knuckle boxing, one night only. Who's in? Bare knuckle boxing would be in, and they would not need to sign those guys to long-term deals to try to tell a story or build guys or pad a record for one mega fight. They go, okay, there's something special here. Here's what we're willing to bet on this. Who's in? And they'd see who steps forward. I bring that to you because we have a couple of interesting pieces on the board right now. We really do. Fabricio Verdum getting grabbed up and gone over to the PFL. Okay, but now they have a problem, which is who do we put against him? Whereas if you do a one night only, if it's just one of those things, Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie, neither guy is going to built into the storylines. We're going to do this one night. Who likes the idea? We've seen times in MMA where this is real. James Toney coming over for Randy Couture. That was always designed to be one night, even if James would have got the jump on Randy. This is a one night. We're going to bring a boxer and an MMA guy. There's a place for that at times. And I would just suggest for you, we might be at that time now. Locking Anderson down to a 5-fight deal when he's 44 years old has seemed to turn a lot of promoters off. But to lock Anderson Silva down on a one night, one time, this specific opponent who's also over 40, his name's Yoel Romero, who's in, seems like the right time. I don't argue for you that Bellator should investigate and go down the road of Rumble Johnson, Yoel Romero. What I argue for you is that they could do it now, one time, for example, but it would have to change the way we think and look at MMA, which makes it very unlikely to happen. Either way, Rumble Johnson coming to Bellator, apparently at light heavyweight. You see, Rumble's one of these guys who's going to be a victim of his own success. I mean, don't forget that Rumble Johnson, because of what he's paid, because of his standing, because of the mere fear factor, not to mention the guys that he's already disposed of, is going to have to fight at the top of a bill. And he's going to have to fight against a top guy. He doesn't get to walk in against the number 7 and go, well, I haven't done this in a long time. It doesn't matter. You're still Rumble. You're fighting in a main event. You're going to fight one of the baddest guys out there. We saw this happen, guys. For example, just one that's more obvious for you to see would be with Ronda Rousey. When Ronda left the sport, there was a lot of things she still could have done. She could have gone from being champion to one of the gals. But one of the gals is a very honorable spot for most gals, and she could have floated around and got a couple wins over here and stubbed her toe here and come back and sold out this arena with a couple more wins. She could have done that, but her contract, because of her own success, was so beautiful and so alluring that she had to be a main event. And if you've got to be a main event, then you've got to be fighting the top gals. She just wasn't one of them. Moreover, they looked at it as, okay, if you're going to be in a main event, you got to fight the top gals. It's got to be a world title fight. She just wasn't one of those gals, but she was one of the gals for sure. I bring that to you because that was a very obvious one where somebody, because of their own success, contractually put themselves in a really hard spot. Rumble is going to be in a hard spot. Rumble is going to have a hard fight. Am I at all going to get my way that we even investigate heavyweight, or is this locked in at light heavyweight? Well, I guess we'll find out in the future. But as far as what should we do with him and what should we do next, particularly if we expect that Rumble's going to be a bracket buster, you don't have to eliminate another top guy on day one, which is likely what Rumble is going to do. You're going to have a top guy, and Rumble's likely to come and put him down in less than 5 minutes like he has so many other guys. There's still ways to do this. So there's something special with Rumble. We want to get his feet wet. Okay, great. Hey, Yoel. See you in Connecticut.